शुरू करो। कौन मंगलाचरण कर रहा है? रोशन।
जी गुरु जी मैं जस्ट स्क्रीन शेयर करके
तो रौनक तुम करो मंगलाचरण।
ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय
वंदे
भूतले
हम श्री गुरो
श्रीमते भक्ति
श्रीयुतपद कमलम श्री गुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं
श्रीरूप
साग्रजातम्
वैष्णवांशं श्रीरूपं साद्वैतं सहगण रघुनाथं वितां सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखं नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशितारिणे नमो ब्रह्मण्य देवाय गो ब्रह्मण्य नमो ब्रह्मण्य देवाय गो ब्रह्मण्य देवा हिताय च जगद्धिताय कृष्णाय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पत्रयोधस्य कृपा सिन्धुवेव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna devotees. So today we'll be reading from Srila Prabhupada Vacha. I'm requesting Roshan Prabhu to kindly share the screen so that ready. Hare Krishna Roshan Prabhu, please share the screen.
तो हाँ हाँ गुरु जी कौन सा चैप्टर नंबर 56
56
56 है
जी
ये वाला तो कल हो गया था
56
कौन सा चैप्टर नंबर होगा
मुझे 56 से करना है
56 से करना है
जी
मैं पढ़ूं
ये
okay my association with Srila Prabhupada can be divided into three types. First type was wonderful. These were the times I was able to witness Srila Prabhupada's mercy and kindness. The second type was more wonderful. These were the times I was able to massage him and cook for him on a daily basis. Massaging him was particularly sweet for me, but still, better still were very special moments which can only be described as the most wonderful. One night, Srila Prabhupada was ready for his evening massage about 10 p.m. In his Juhu flat, he had a separate bedroom. Juhu was especially nice because of the mosquitoes. Yes, because of the mosquitoes. I had to get under the mosquito net with Srila Prabhupada. This situation was very intimate. Srila Prabhupada lay down and I sat on the bed by his feet. I felt like I was camping out with my spiritual master, like two youngsters in the woods. On this particular night, Srila Prabhupada assisted me in my fantasy. While while I was gently rubbing his body, he said, "One of my favorite things when I was young was my shoes. Once my father brought me a pair of shoes. They were imported from England. They had soft leather uppers and hard leather soles. At the time, perhaps they cost 6 rupees. That was a fortune. In India, 70 years ago, 6 rupees were a lot of money. I liked my shoes very much. I remember I used to wear them to school. At that point, he stopped speaking for a few minutes. I was caught up in Srila Prabhupada's bliss. I tried to imagine him walking around in his shoes. Still massaging his transcendental form, I smiled and said, "Prabhupada, when you walk to school, Did you look at your shoes as you were walking? Yes, he said, laughing. I would look down at my shoes. I liked them so much, these shoes. He spoke about a few other childhood memories that night. That was a most wonderful night for me. I could have stayed there forever massaging him and listening to stories. It was like hearing Krishna book stories for the first time. His memory was so incredible. When he spoke about his childhood, it seemed like he was there. I couldn't imagine what my qualification was to be able to have shared these moments with him. Now I can understand he wasn't describing these pastimes for my pleasure alone. He was telling me so I could describe them to all of his followers. I hope I can relate them with at least a hint of the nectar that I felt as he told me such sublime pastimes. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for sharing your memories with me. I had no qualification to hear them from any source and somehow was able to hear them from your divine self. I have no qualification to describe them, but I must, because you have told them to me, and it is my pleasurable duty to spread your glories all over the three worlds. I will never understand this. Chapter 57. During my first trip to Mayapur with Srila Prabhupada, the guest house had not been built, so our quarters were very austere. We stayed in a goshala, a thatched hut which had been prepared for his stay. Srila Prabhupada stayed in one room and the rest of us stayed on the other side of a partition. I had never seen so many mosquitoes in my life. It was so bad that by the time I had the net over Srila Prabhupada's bed, there were already mosquitoes inside the net. One night after we both climbed under the net, I started massaging his legs. There are so many mosquitoes, I said. Should I kill them, Srila Prabhupada? Yes, they are attacking, he said. According to Shastra, if one is being attacked, you have the right to defend yourself. And they are attacked. So as I massaged him, I watched. Whenever I saw a mosquito in the air, I raised my hands and clapped them together. Sometimes I gently smacked Srila Prabhupada's body as one landed on his head or back. It was the most unusual service I had ever done. I enjoyed it immensely. I never considered myself much of a warrior, but this enemy was no match for me. I had finally been given a service. I was good at killing insects. Srila Prabhupada was very kind. He also had the best description of these pesky insects. One morning he rang his bell very early. I walked into his room slowly, still half asleep. He looked at me with a touch of anger and said, "Some mosquito. Last night he was cutting my forehead. He created so much disturbance. He made it difficult for me to do my translating work." It was incredible, no matter what was going on. Srila Prabhupada always related it to his service to Krishna. It was never about bodily inconvenience. He only complained about something if it interfered with his service. Of course, of course, all I ever saw was Srila Prabhupada serving his Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada in the state of bliss. The two went on simultaneously. Mayapur was chilly in the evening, but Srila Prabhupada never complained. He complained, though, about the unnecessary talk between his disciples. Since we all stayed in the same room, Srila Prabhupada heard us talking. "Tell them to be quiet," he told me. "All this talk is not good. Simply they are gossiping. Tell them to stop." This was not easy for me to do since the devotees were usually my senior god brothers. I told them Prabhupada had asked they be quiet. This same scenario occurred months later when we stayed in the guest house. In 1973, Mayapur was such a quiet place that any talking could be heard by Srila Prabhupada. Whenever he was at any ISKCON temple, many of his disciples would gather. It was a perfect situation for devotees to exchange stories about this person and that person. Why must everything deteriorate into this idle talk, idle discussion? Srila Prabhupada said. This is wasting time, destroying Krishna consciousness. I always watered it down. Before relaying this to my god brothers, I I didn't have the nerve to tell them as he had told me. I never heard him mention it to anyone when they were in his room, but he sure let me know about it. This was one of Srila Prabhupada's qualities. He was very careful not to discourage anyone through criticism. If if they were capable of dealing with it, then he would chastise them. Otherwise, he was the greatest transcendental diplomat there was ever. He, his only goal was to infect as many people as possible with love of Krishna. And if you had the chance to personally associate with him, then there was a strong possibility of becoming deeply attached to him, no matter how hard you fought it. Next, Ronak, after him.
ऊपर नहीं वहाँ आ गया. January 25 to 31, ISKCON Calcutta. Calcutta was definitely Srila Prabhupada's hometown. A temple which had a relaxed atmosphere was situated on the second floor with a modest-sized temple room. Srila Prabhupada's room was at the end of the building. The nicest part of the facility was a marble veranda that ran the width of the building. It was overlooked a pond that was across the street. While in Calcutta, we could not stop the flow of guests entering Srila Prabhupada's room. It was difficult from other temples where there were much more control. When Srila Prabhupada rested in the afternoon, I would lie down in front of the door of his so no one could enter. It was one of my favorite services, getting the chance to be his guard dog. Srila Prabhupada knew it was the hometown crowd, so he was especially gracious. There were always a few boxes of milk sweets in his room that had been purchased at the local sweet shop. Sandesh of many varieties were the best tasting in the world. Srila Prabhupada always emphasized all guests should be given prasadam. One day I noticed that a box of sweet was covered with ants. I thought if I showed them to Srila Prabhupada, he would tell me to discard them. Then I could dust off the ants and keep them for myself. I lustfully walked into his room and offered my obeisances. I told him of the dilemma. He smiled at me, no doubt reading my mind. That's all right, he told me. They don't eat very much. Go get a thali, a plate with a one rim around it, and put water in it. Then you can put a pot in the upside down and put the sweets on the pot. That will make a moat so the ants can't get at the sweets. One of Srila Prabhupada's transcendental characteristics was he never ever wasted anything. This quality manifested itself in many pastimes. One afternoon, while lying outside in his room, I heard him moaning. I didn't know what to do. A few times I looked in and saw him tossing and turning on his bed. He didn't call for me, but I couldn't take it anymore. Finally, I rushed into his room. Srila Prabhupada, what's wrong? I asked. My stomach very painful, he said. It must have been something I ate. It's very, very painful. He didn't ask for any assistance. I remained in the room and gently rubbed his stomach. Later, he said, it must have been that coconut kachori my sister made for me for lunch. It was not cooked. The coconut was very difficult to digest. It is causing very much pain. Throughout the evening, different devotees took turns rubbing his body. The pain continued all night. With each breath he took, he would let out a sigh. In the morning, the Kaviraj came. He confirmed what Srila Prabhupada had said. I entered Srila Prabhupada's room at 4 a.m. This kachori has created havoc, he told me. All night I have not been able to rest. It has created havoc in my life. Srila Prabhupada, please forgive me. Because of voluntarily accepting the reaction of my sinful activities, you had to endure suffering. I watched as you were quiet and never complained. I'm forever indebted for what you have done for me. Prabhupada's Puppeteer and London Rath Yatra. Complete, July 7 to 8, 1973, Rath Yatra Festival, ISKCON London. At the completion of Srila Prabhupada's visit to Calcutta, he was deciding where to travel next. That was always an exciting adventure. On this occasion, the senior devotee suggested Srila Prabhupada go to Hawaii or Los Angeles to rest. There was an invitation, however, from the devotees in London to attend the Rath Yatra festival. Srila Prabhupada was expert in engaging his disciples in such a way as to develop their love and attachment for him. Wherever Srila Prabhupada stayed, the process of deciding where to travel occurred again and again. He allowed his disciples to suggest places and reasons why he should go there. Hawaii was often mentioned because of the nice weather and good fruit. He listened to his disciples' opinion and then did whatever he wanted. Once I became acquainted with the process, it was a great deal of fun. Sometimes he traveled to cities all over the world without ever leaving his sitting room. The most important thing for a secretary to know was that until he said, "Send a telegram" or "Tell me to send us," send us tickets. It was only a suggestion by Srila Prabhupada. It kept his disciples around the world busy painting temples blue and white, as these were considered Srila Prabhupada's favorite colors. I'm not sure, but sometimes I thought Srila Prabhupada considered that all temples outside of India had a fragrance of an MAB paint store. Shrutakirti, what do you think? He asked me. Should I go to London and attend the Rath Yatra festival, or should I go to Hawaii and rest? I had been with Srila Prabhupada for almost 1 year, and I knew he would do whatever he wanted. I was thrilled that he would even ask my opinion. Just that one acknowledgement was enough to last my entire life. Srila Prabhupada, I quickly responded, if you go to Rath Yatra festival in London, then so many people will be benefited by your association. Yes, I think your observation is correct, he said, smiling. After listening to everyone, Srila Prabhupada said, thank you for the advice. I'm going to London for the Rath Yatra. It was an amazing festival. My perspective was limited since I stayed by Srila Prabhupada's side, but it was filled with adventure. Srila Prabhupada was very enthusiastic. His, his Vyasasan was available on the Rath cart, but he decided to walk with the devotees. Srila Prabhupada walked in front of the cart, clapping his hands to the beat of the kirtan. He raised his hand in the air, encouraging everyone to dance. He looked like the supreme puppeteer. As he raised his hands, everyone leaped into the air in ecstasy. It didn't require any purification. If you were near him, you were in bliss. Except for the bobbies, policemen, they were looking for someone in charge. They wanted to calm everyone down. They were keen enough to realize that if they could control Srila Prabhupada, they could control the unruly crowd. Somehow they thought I was an associate of His Divine Grace. You'll have to tell your leader to sit down, one Bobby said. He's causing too much of a disturbance. Everyone is becoming wild and we can't control the crowd. All right, I told him, and then did nothing. It was apparent that Srila Prabhupada was in charge of the festival. He was visibly ecstatic. The Bobbies again approached me. You must tell him. He'll have to sit down, they firmly said. Again, I agreed. With fear of reprisal, I tapped Srila Prabhupada on his shoulder and said, Prabhupada, the policemen, they want you to sit down. They say you are creating havoc here in the parade. Srila Prabhupada looked through me for a brief moment. He quickly turned away with his arms still raised in the air. Majestically, he continued walking with a bounce in his step. He allowed everyone present to enter into his world of bliss. He never stopped. He walked the length of the parade. The bobbies gave up their attack. They were no match for the pure devotee and the Lord of the universe. Srila Prabhupada, when I told you that so many people would benefit by your association, I had no idea of your plans. Like an ocean of mercy, you distributed your waves of kindness to all who attended. Please forgive me for tapping you on your shoulder that day. Due to my dullness, I attempted to distract you from your mission. Thank you for ignoring my countless shortcomings. Hare Krishna. Rahul Prabhu, आप पढ़िए. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. While staying in a small facility at the front of the property, Srila Prabhupada sometimes walked outside and observed his disciples taking prasadam behind his quarters. In the existing conditions, Srila Prabhupada considered his disciples like pioneers, undergoing great austerities to help him in his mission. In some places in India, the conditions were fair at best. Srila Prabhupada was anxious to have guest facilities built so his disciples would have adequate living arrangements. Having no permanent cooking facility, the devotees used a small kerosene stove to cook puris. They cooked outside near the area where they took prasadam. Cooking was going on as the devotees were eating, so they were continually being bought hot puris. During that time of the year, date trees were tapped for their sap and it was cooked down into an incredibly tasty gore. One day, Srila Prabhupada left his room to use the meager bathroom facility. He walked outside and of course everyone offered their obeisances. Go on, take prasadam, he told them. The exchange between Srila Prabhupada and his disciples was so sweet. He always enjoyed seeing his disciples eating prasadam. He saw the combination of hot puris and date gore and said, "Oh, very good. Oh, very good combination." Later in his room, he said to me, "This is not a very good practice. The devotees having puris made on the spot hot like that. This is not our system. You just take prasadam. Are we so high lofty? These devotees have to be getting hot puris one after another. This is not good. This must be stopped." That day I transferred the message to one of the temple administrators so that Srila Prabhupada's wishes could be carried out. September 1973, ISKCON Bombay, Juhu Beach. After our arrival in the morning, Srila Prabhupada informed me he wanted the deities Mahaprasadam for lunch. I was happy with these instructions since no one had arrived yet who could prepare his lunch. When the Maha arrived from the temple, I started to heat it up. While in the kitchen, a devotee came in and told me that Srila Prabhupada wanted his prasadam then. "I am heating it up," I told him. "I will bring it in right away." In an instant, they returned and said, "Srila Prabhupada is angry. He wants it now." Trembling, I went into his room and offered my obeisances. He was yelling before I lifted my head. "Why are you heating up the prasadam?" he asked. "Mahaprasadam is not to be heated up. I want it now." "I didn't want it heated up. I just wanted the prasadam. You bring it now." Being with Srila Prabhupada was never boring. Many devotees have commented that it must have been very difficult to be Srila Prabhupada's personal servant. It was indeed, but it was more difficult for Srila Prabhupada to have had me as his personal servant. I still have no idea how much nonsense he tolerated because of my bad habits. He had so much patience. There were so many things to learn from him. He often said, "Krishna consciousness is common sense." Srila Prabhupada, please benedict me with the common sense so I can begin to serve you according to your desires.
Krishna consciousness is common sense. Interesting point.
प्रभु जी कोई बाकी है पढ़ने के लिए?
मैं पढ़ता हूँ। हरे कृष्णा। हरे कृष्णा।
पढ़िए प्रभु पढ़िए।
जी। May 1973, ISKCON Los Angeles. One evening at about 5, I was laying down, half asleep on my mat in the servants' quarters. I heard the bell ring. I walked towards Srila Prabhupada's sitting room, trying to compose myself. I realized that I was still affected by the mode of ignorance. I entered Prabhupada's room and offered my obeisance. I sat upon, hoping he wouldn't notice my condition. I was in worse shape than I realized. He was more conscious of my illusion than I was. This statement may seem elementary, but I had always thought that Srila Prabhupada had too many other things to be concerned with than my Krishna consciousness. He looked at me with great concern. So, why, why, why you are not chanting? He asked. I was really caught off guard. Srila Prabhupada was expert at comforting someone who has at least expected it. I didn't know what to say, so I said something stupid but honest. Srila Prabhupada, I am having a difficult time. I explained. It is hard sitting in my room all day chanting and reading. His reply was extraordinary. I am still here all the day also, he said with a serious expression. I simply go out once a day on a walk. The rest of the day I am just sitting here and I am not having any difficulty. I am not I am not like you, Srila Prabhupada. I quickly responded. You are like Haridas Thakura. I am not very transcendental. I have to keep myself busy. Maybe I could do some typing for you. Maybe I could do some typing for you. Still looking very seriously, he said, what are we going to do? Srila Prabhupada, I don't know. Call Karnadhara, he instructed. As previously mentioned, Srila Prabhupada said these words often when he was in Los Angeles because he had confidence in Karnadhara's abilities. He was a doer and he was also very serious. Karnadhara and I went to Srila Prabhupada's room together and offered our obeisance. Chitakruti is having trouble, Srila Prabhupada told Karnadhara. He is not chanting. He says he needs something to do to keep him busy. What shall we do? Kandhara, looking very intense as always, said, we have to get him some engagement somehow. Yes, Srila Prabhupada said, I have an idea. I am translating Srimad Bhagavatam here in this room. So I will start translating the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the study. In this room, I have my dictaphone and I will do I will do Srimad Bhagavatam, and in my study you can put another dictaphone machine and I can start translating Chaitanya Charitamrita. Looking at me, he said, so you can type it. You can prepare everything for editing. In this way, I will keep you busy and I will keep Pradyumna busy with editing. Is that all right? Yes, Srila Prabhupada. I enthusiastically answered, thank you. Andhara and I set up the study so Srila Prabhupada could begin the work on the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Early the next morning, Srila Prabhupada went into the bathroom to get ready for his morning work. I went into his study and took the tape out of the machine. He had some translating. That morning I enthusiastically chanted my rounds, knowing that my spiritual master loved me more than I could have imagined. Later in the day, I transcribed the tape. There wasn't much on it. But it was understandable because he was still translating Srimad Bhagavatam in the other room. The next day, I went into his study to get the tape and saw that it hadn't been used. He didn't do any further translating on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. The rest time we were in Los Angeles. That didn't matter to me, though he had lit a tiny spark in me by caring so much. 6 months later, we were in his study in Los Angeles, where he had previously done the first hour of translating Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. You should become expert in Chaitanya Charitamrita or give classes on it, he told me. I nodded and smiled, not knowing how it could ever happen. Srila Prabhupada, I know that by your causeless mercy everything is possible. Causeless mercy, everything is possible. If I could develop for you a fraction of love that you have shown to me, my life will be successful. I pray that in some far distant life, I will be able to understand my relationship with you. Srila Prabhupada on chanting japa. It was easy to understand that Srila Prabhupada enjoyed chanting japa. He always stressed the importance of chanting 16 rounds. He told me that as a householder, he used a simple process of completing 16 rounds that we could apply. When I was a householder, he said, I would chant 4 rounds before each meal and 4 rounds before each meal and 4 rounds before retiring in the evening. In this way, 16 rounds could be chanted without difficulty. He laughed and said, if you don't take prasadam before chanting, your 4 rounds then will be sure to get them chanted. In New Dwarka, he told me, in the evening, if I get tired, I walk and chant. If you are tired, then walk and chant like I do. Sometimes, if I am tired, I pace back and front in the room. Simply in one room, you can chant. Simply in one room, you can do everything. If you are tired, you can stand up and chant like I do. It was common to see Srila Prabhupada walk in his quarters or sit in his rocking chair while he chanted rounds. In the evening, he sometimes chanted rounds while I massaged him in the bed. There, I am finished, he would say. One day I was sitting in his room in New Dwarka, cleaning around his desk. He was sitting behind his desk chanting japa. As he pulled down a counter bead, he looked at me with a beautiful smile and said humorously, there, I have finished my 16 rounds. Now I can do any damn thing I want. Devotees of 10 asked Srila Prabhupada about following certain rules in regards to Ekadashi or following Chaturmas. My disciples, they cannot even chant 16 rounds and follow the principles. He responded, what is the use of these other rules and regulations? First, just do these things. Do the simple things that I asked to do. Don't concern yourself with all these rituals. First, chant your 16 rounds and follow the principles. One day, a brahmachari entered Srila Prabhupada's room and told him he had fallen down with a woman. He suggested to Srila Prabhupada that perhaps he should got married. Marriage? What do you think marriage is going to solve your difficulties? Srila Prabhupada answered, you should chant. Just chant Hare Krishna, chant your 16 rounds. Many times devotees went into Srila Prabhupada's room with a problem they were hoping would be solved. With some particular arrangement, his solution was always the same. Chant Hare Krishna, chant your 16 rounds. He developed the phrase, just do it, long before night. If there is some difficulty, you chant loudly. He told one disciple, if there is some agitation, chant out loud. One time, it was brought to his attention that a senior devotee was not attending Mangala Arati or chanting round, at least with other devotees. Do it to set the example for other devotees. Srila Prabhupada said, you yourself are very advanced. You do not need to attend Mangala Arati, but you should set the example for those that require it. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for being the Acharya. You always taught by example. You chanted rounds. You said 3 Gayatri mantras a day, rose early in the morning, and put tilak on your transcendental body. You never asked any disciple to do something you were not doing yourself. You always practiced what you preached. You showed us how a pure devotee conducts himself. I have been in illusion since time immemorial, but I pray that I am never deluded into thinking that this process of devotional service is only for the neophyte. Hare Krishna. सौरभ प्रभु पढ़ करिए.
Okay, Hare Krishna. September 1972, ISKCON, Los Angeles. Srila Prabhupada took great pleasure in hearing his disciples chant the Mahamantra, but sometimes he wanted them to do it elsewhere. The former temple room in New Dwarka, which now houses the museum, was beneath Srila Prabhupada's quarters. One afternoon, a male devotee was chanting japa very loudly in the temple room. Srila Prabhupada was resting, and so were Sri Rukmini Dwarkadish. Srila Prabhupada didn't even ring his bell to call me. He opened the door of his room and shouted down the stairway, "Tell that devotee that the deities are taking rest and that he should be quiet. Tell them to shut up." Srila Prabhupada was very humble. He could have said that he was resting and didn't want to be disturbed, but that was not the way he presented it. June 1973, ISKCON Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir. During our stay, Srila Prabhupada and his entourage had rooms on half of the second floor of the guest house. The other rooms were available for devotee guests. There was a beautiful veranda that surrounded the entire facility. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada walked on the veranda and chanted japa. Devotees often gathered at the other end of the veranda, hoping to catch a glimpse of his divine grace. One morning, an elder godbrother of mine was walking back and forth, chanting japa on the marble veranda. My instincts and previous experiences told me that he was chanting too loudly and that Srila Prabhupada might be disturbed. Srila Prabhupada relished his quiet ecstasy. "Prabhu, perhaps you could chant a little softer," I said. Srila Prabhupada might not like it. He looked at me like I was crazy. I think he had the idea that Srila Prabhupada would be pleased by his devotion. He continued with his loud chanting. Within a few minutes, the bell rang. I already knew what was going to happen and admit I was in bliss. I hurried into Srila Prabhupada's sitting room and offered my obeisances. "Who is that chanting out there?" Srila Prabhupada said in an angry mood. If they want to chant loudly, tell them to go into the temple room and chant before the deities. Please scroll. I happily exposed the culprit and rushed outside. This time I had a rather smug look on my face. After all, I was armed with the Srila Prabhupada Chakra weapon. I was indestructible. Needless to say, after conveying Srila Prabhupada's message, he went on his way with a new attitude. Srila Prabhupada once told me the first-class servant knows what his master wants and does it without being asked. There were so many occasions when I knew from experience what you wanted, but due to my weakness of character was unable to carry it out. I always tried to be quiet. You also said for oneself, the devotee is meek and humble, but for Krishna and his pure devotee, he becomes like the lion. Thank you for always showing these characteristics. Okay, next, Shubham Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. This December 1973, Los Angeles, ISKCON, Los Angeles. Once Srila Prabhupada was in Delhi, he received a silver vase from a life member. Originally, it was to be given to Indira Gandhi and was engraved with her name. Srila Prabhupada was very pleased with the gift and had me carry it in the luggage until we reached Los Angeles. "I will keep this here," Srila Prabhupada said, pointing to his desk in his quarters. I showed it to the devotees who cleaned Srila Prabhupada's rooms while he went on his morning walk. Srila Prabhupada likes this vase very much, I told them. You should put nice flowers in it. Every morning they made a beautiful flower arrangement in the vase. It was a good size and could hold a large amount of flowers. One day we returned from the morning walk a little earlier than usual. As soon as Srila Prabhupada walked into his room, he noticed that the vase was not on his desk. Where is the vase? He asked me. Well, probably they look it into the kitchen to put fresh flowers in it, I said. Now he was somewhat angry and getting angrier with each sentence. Why? He asked. The flowers in it were fine. Why do they change these flowers every day? Why are they so wasteful? Who is this person doing this? Tell them to change them only when they go bad. You should never take the flowers out of this room until they were dwindling. It is not necessary. This is just wasteful. Where is the vase? Go find it immediately. I quickly left his room. Actually, I was eager to leave. It was not fun for me to be around Srila Prabhupada when he was yelling, even if it was not directed towards me. Fortunately, the vase was in the temple kitchen. You had better stop changing these flowers every day, I told the devotees. Srila Prabhupada said it is very bad. Make sure this vase is never out of his room. Arriving in his sitting room with a beautiful new flower arrangement did not seem to appease him. I put the vase down on his desk and offered my obeisances, wishing I could just keep my head on the floor. Just do it when it is necessary, he shouted. They should not be wasting so much on flowers. They should not be wasting so much money every day changing. This is your custom in America, simply wasting. In your country, if you have some clothes, if there is something extra, instead of just folding it under, you will cut it off and throw away. This is your process here in America. In India, if there is something left, they will fold it off, they will fold it over and sew. Whatever goes wrong, you solve it with money. In this way, it appears very good. You make some accident, then because you have money, you can cover it over very quickly. It is not that you are very capable of doing anything, but because money is there, you make everything look very good. With money, you can cover over all of your deficiencies. Srila Prabhupada often said, Krishna has given you American boys and girls so much facility. What was not apparent to me at the time was the reason so much was because of his potency, not anything we were doing. Srila Prabhupada saw Krishna in everything, everywhere. Therefore, sometimes he chastised us when we were wasteful. He was so very tolerant of our spiritual and material immaturity. Srila Prabhupada, please forgive me for my wasteful habits. Most of all, forgive me for wasting so much time in the service of the illusory energy. Sometimes in a lecture, you would look at your watch and say how it was impossible to recover this moment in time ever again. No matter how much money you have, I would foolishly think. Why is that so bad? We are eternal. What is the loss? Now, as I sit here with emptiness in my heart due to your absence, I have a little idea of how valuable each second was in your presence. No amount of money can bring you back to this most unfortunate soul. Again, I am feeling the bittersweet taste of separation from your divine grace. Next, Srila Prabhupada's mastery of English language. Srila often adapted the English language to suit his requirements, usually with humorous results. One day, while on a morning walk in Hawaii, for example, he looked out into the ocean and momentarily passed the surfers. "You call them surfers," he said, laughing. "I call them sufferers." Sometimes, when he spoke of the democratic form of government in the United States, he used the word democracy instead of democracy. When I was first with Srila Prabhupada, he sometimes rang his bell, and when I entered the room, he would ask, "Where is Pandit Ji?" This was an affectionate term for his Sanskrit editor. After several months, his Sanskrit editor was not always readily available. Sripad would then call me to his room and ask, "Where is Pandit Ji?" In Delhi, Brahmanand Das and I was sitting in Sripad's quarters. I began drying the floor and floor around Sripad's clay water pot because water was seeping through and collecting on the floor. Sri Prabhupada Brahmanan said, "The water is coming out of the pot a little." "Yes, I believe they call it percolating," Sri Prabhupada said. "Is that right, Brahmanan?" "I really don't know," Sri Prabhupada Brahmanan answered. I thought his description was close, but off the mark. We had been brought up hearing the term daily because our parents drank coffee that was brewed in a percolator. Brahmanand, an English major, looked up the word in the dictionary and found Sri Prabhupada's description to be most accurate. One of my favorite memories of Sri Prabhupada adapting the English language occurred during an evening massage in New Dwarka. Sri Prabhupada was laying in wait on his back, kneeling on the floor next to his bed. I massaged his legs. Smiling, he looked at me and pointed to his feet. "Do my fingers," he said. I became confused and knelt motionless for a few seconds. He pointed to his toes again. He had a bigger smile on his face and said, "My fingers, massage my fingers." I finally realized what he meant. "Oh, your toes," I said. "You want me to massage your toes?" Still smilingly broadly, he said, "Yes, my fingers, do my fingers." This same conversation occurred 3 other times during future massages. Each time Sri Prabhupada said it to me, I was caught off guard and became confused for a moment. It was incredibly sweet. Sometimes during his evening massage, Sri Prabhupada went into samadhi. This was scary for me because once he instructed me, "You massage until I become tired, not until you become tired." He gave me these instructions.
Massage me until I become tired, not that you become tired.
You become tired. He gave me this. He gave me this instruction one day during a morning massage. I moved from one part of his body to the next without him telling me. He let it go on for a few days before chastising me about my laziness. Therefore, in the evening when he went into samadhi during a massage, I became scared because it was possible to massage him for hours without him saying anything. He would close his eyes. After some time, I would begin to rub a little harder, hoping that he would notice I was still there. Other times, he would say to me, "Are you tired?" I always said, "Oh no, Prabhupada." There were times when I dozed off while massaging. When I dozed off while massaging, him.
ऐसे कैसे होता है प्रभु जी मीटिंग क्यों कर रहे
तुमने नहीं किया, तुम ही समझोगे।
Okay. And sometimes Srila Prabhupada closed his eyes while I massaged his feet. When this happened, I placed my head on the bottom of those two beautiful lotus feet. I was always very greedy. It was not enough that I massaged his feet every day. I needed more. The massage ended with Srila Prabhupada's sweet saying, "All right, that's enough." Then there was more nectar. I watched as he sat up and grabbed his cover and in one motion placed his head on the pillow while simultaneously pulling the cover over his head. I could never do it justice by trying to describe it, but it was most endearing to watch. Other times he said, "I had taken rest. It is a complete waste of time. I wish I didn't ever have to take rest. I am simply wasting my time." Srila Prabhupada, forgive my offensive behavior, thinking that there was something you didn't know or understand. I have finally realized what you were teaching me with your gentle lessons. If you said your toes were fingers, they were fingers. Thank you for letting me massage your 20 fingers. हरे कृष्णा। उसके बाद
रोशन ब्रो आप पढ़ रहे हैं क्या? आप तो एक बार पढ़ लिए। शत्रु को बोले थे वहाँ पे कुछ नेटवर्क इशू उनके पास।
रंजित तो नहीं। Elevator head shaving, bath bucket, that talk. For 6 weeks, Srila Prabhupada stayed at the flat of Kartikeya Mahadevya. From the ground floor, there was a very small two-man elevator that was used to get to Srila Prabhupada's rooms. One morning, Srila Prabhupada, Tamal Krishna Goswami, and I went toward the elevator on the way to the morning walk. As Srila Prabhupada's servant, I expected to get into the elevator with him. But Tamal Krishna Goswami went in first, so there was no room for me. As the doors closed, I quickly turned and ran down 2 flights of stairs. I arrived at the elevator doors just in time to open them for Srila Prabhupada and help him out of elevator. As we walked away, Tamal Krishna Maharaj looked at me and laughed. "Srila Prabhupada," he said, "Shrutakirti is really expert." "Yes," Srila Prabhupada replied. "Kirti means expert." He continued toward the car without commenting further on this subject. Being Srila Prabhupada's servant was filled with adventure and suspense. Whatever was going on seemed to be filled with a certain electricity. Every month, I had the opportunity to shave Srila Prabhupada's head with the electric clippers. Srila Prabhupada was not a passive recipient during this process. He moved around, and that made me more frightened. He very kindly helped me to be Prabhupada conscious. "Turn the shaver off in between each stroke so it doesn't get hot," he instructed. This isn't very difficult, but the tricky part was shaving around his ears. "Be careful of my ears," he said whenever I got close to them. I was very careful. By Krishna's grace, there was never a mishap during this service. It also gave me the opportunity to put many devotees into ecstasy by distributing Srila Prabhupada's hair. The most simple arrangements were often the biggest cause of anxiety, especially in India. In 1973, while in Mayapur, I put an immersion heater in a brass bucket filled with water to warm it for Srila Prabhupada's bath. Naturally, it didn't always work. The heaters burned out or the electricity went out. Srila Prabhupada would be ready for his bath with no warm water. "Why don't I have any hot water for bath?" he shouted. When he stayed on the second floor at the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan, he said, You can place a bucket of water outside on the roof and the sun will heat it sufficiently for taking bath. That usually worked, except when the monkeys decided they wanted to drink from it and proceeded to knock over the bucket. There were countless mornings when Srila Prabhupada passed by me on the way to his bathroom. Datong is there, he said. When he said that, I knew it meant I had forgotten to put this twig in the bathroom so he could brush his teeth. When I was with him, Srila Prabhupada used a twig to brush his teeth, not a toothbrush. The best was from the neem tree. This was very easy to get in India. You could go to a store and buy them by the bunch. In New York City, however, it wasn't easy to get any kind of twig. Somehow I managed to get something. The important feature to look for was a wood that became bristly when chewed on the end. As his personal servant, I was supposed to ensure that wherever Srila Prabhupada traveled, he would have the facility to follow his schedule. It was amazing. He said he did so much traveling but maintained his regulation as if the term jet lag was only imaginary. I was mediocre at best in performing my duties. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for tolerating me as I fumbled through my service. Puffed rice childhood memories. One evening, Srila Prabhupada called me into his room. This evening, you can make me some puffed rice and peanuts, he said. It will fill me, but it is not heavy. When I ate last night, made it difficult. When I ate last night, made it difficult for me to get up and do my translating work. With puffed rice, there is no indigestion. I left his room and began to prepare the puffed rice and peanuts. He told me to serve it with sliced cucumber and ginger root on the side. First, a chance was made, and then the puffed rice and peanuts were put into the wok and cooked until all the grains were toasted. I brought it to his room along with hot milk that was sweetened with sugar. Shortly after he finished his meal, he called me in and told me it was time for his massage. For his evening massage, he either sat up or lay on his back. While in his Juhu flat, I sat on his bed beside him because the mosquito net surrounded his bed. The room was very peaceful. My mother, she made very first-class puffed rice, he said as I massaged his legs. She had a special hook, a very thick hook, so you could make it hot. You put sand in the wok and fired it very hot. You would throw the rice in and mix it up. It would puff in the hot sand. Then you sifted it so all the sand would fall through. When shifting, you had to be sure and clean it very well until all the sand was gone. He stopped for a moment and then continued. She would give it to us very often. This puffed rice is very nice. She was a first-class cook. Everything she made nicely. It was natural. My sister also, she was a very good cook from watching my mother. In the Vedic society, it was the woman's duty. All day, the women were engaged in cooking. The husband and children, they took nice prasadam and everyone was happy. The woman's day was spent cooking and drying out foodstuffs, storing and preparing all different kinds of foodstuffs and cooking down milk and making ghee. In this way, they all were all very expert. In the Vedic culture, whenever there was some gathering, all the women would get together. Whatever feast there was, everyone would bring something. In still absorbed in his childhood pastimes, he continued. When we were young, there was no want of food. We always had plenty of food. In mango season, we would have a special basket of mangoes in the house. When we were children, we would run through the house playing. We would grab mangoes as we were running through all through the day we could eat mangoes. It wasn't you had to think, oh, can I have a mango? Plenty of food was there, so life was simple. My father, he didn't talk much, but he always provided enough food. There was no difficulty.
If you want to build a temple, it is all right. Personal mercy. As Srila Prabhupada's servant, there was very few times I had a question on an instruction he gave. Actually, I only remember one time. Srila Prabhupada received a letter from a devotee asking sanction to divorce his wife and permission to marry another. Being present when Srila Prabhupada replied to the letter, I was shocked when he gave permission. It bothered me throughout the day. I understood our philosophy to be that no divorce was allowed. Many times I heard him speak against divorce. I knew it happened, but I didn't think Srila Prabhupada would condone it. I kept thinking, this is not what Srila Prabhupada would do. I couldn't hold it any longer. During his evening massage, I had massaged him for about 1.5 hours when I blurted out, Prabhupada, I want to ask you something. This devotee who is asking about the divorce, please scroll. Oh, yes, he interjected. I told him he can do it. Yes, I know, I continued. I was wondering, you always say that divorce is against Vedic principles. There can never be any divorce. Yes, he said, but in this society, these things are accepted, so we can allow this. I wasn't feeling satisfied. Srila Prabhupada seemed indifferent about it. It was a quality I hadn't observed on such a matter. Yes, but in this society, they can accept meat eating and intoxication. I said, all these things are accepted. Why aren't any of these things allowed? My most merciful spiritual master replied with compassion in his voice. Well, actually, whether I give him permission or not, he is going to get the divorce. So if I tell him, no, you can't get it, and he does it, that will be a serious offense. If I say, yes, you can do it because he is going to do it anyway, then the offense is not so great.
समझे आप
I
लोग?
was relieved.
समझे पॉइंट? डाइवोर्स चलने से बड़ा अपराध होगा था गुरु अपराध प्रभुपाद ने अलाउ कंप्लीट कर लो.
I was relieved. It was what I had been thinking, but I needed him to confirm just how incredibly compassionate he was for all of us.
मुझे आपका आवाज क्लियर रौनक को
आवाज समझ में नहीं आ रही है. हरे कृष्णा.
ओके हरे कृष्णा से स्टार्ट करेंगे एंड करने के लिए रौनक प्रभु
हरे कृष्ण ब्रो बोलिए.
नहीं हम इधर खत्म कर सकते हैं.
जी जी दुकान पर गए ना, कुछ बोल रहे थे कि उनकी आवाज मुझे समझ में नहीं आई कैसे.
नहीं वो चैट में मैसेज किया है कि वी कैन कंटिन्यू.
ओके
कल कंटिन्यू करेंगे बोल रहे हैं.
श्योर. ओके देन. ग्रंथ श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे. हरि हरि.